Split Second Broadcasting's coverage of the 11th season, the playoffs for the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series rolls into Rockingham, North Carolina, as we welcome you all to the Patti Engineering 170 at The Rock. Coming off a historic racetrack last week at Darlington, we now continue the postseason here at this historic site. Old, worn track surface. Gonna be a good one as we get one step closer to determining a champion. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Ross Brockman. Ross, coming off a tire shredding racetrack like Darlington last week, how does that prepare drivers here for The Rock?
We're just not too far down the road. Another race in the Carolinas, another track that uses up some tires too. So I don't know if they're that much similar. Obviously, some higher banks here at Rockingham, similar to maybe 1 and 2 at Darlington, but very different layout with it just being a much tighter, smaller track. It narrows up in a lot of different spots. Lots of action. Can't wait to drop the green here and see how they navigate it.
We saw last week at Darlington, Matthew Weeks has been one of the best ones in terms of preserving tires. He ended up winning his third race of the season. Heat starts from the pole. You're going to see your starting lineup scrolling here on the bottom of your screen. A lot of playoff drivers going to be starting up here at the front. Couple of notable playoff drivers that are not in the field here tonight, but only 2 points separation for the overall points coming into this evening, with a couple of drivers just a little on the outside with an opportunity to get into the conversation. I mean, we're still in the early days here of the playoffs. How much can be gained or lost here today?
Well, I think this is, like you say, a handful of drivers not in the show tonight. That makes for a little smaller of a field, so maybe an opportunity, even if you have an okay day, to not lose a ton of points. I just was looking, Hunter Madalinas is one of our contenders up there battling for that point lead. He starts 13th with Weeks out front. That maybe puts a little pressure on Madalinas early in this race. Otherwise, just kind of looking through the starting lineup, I think that ultimately everybody's pretty close on speed. Going to be a fairly competitive race. I don't know who to, I saw Lawson was kind of the pole sitter early, but Weeks went and grabbed it late, and I think a couple fast trucks. We'll see. I know Weeks is always, we've talked about how great he is on the long run. This is a track that tends to, reward drivers with that, but obviously some short run speed in qualifying too.
Yeah, when we talked with drivers at the conclusion of last week at Darlington, I didn't really hear anybody have any trepidation of coming here tonight. A lot of drivers looking forward to the challenge of this racetrack. It's known as The Rock. We talked about all the nicknames that Darlington had last week, and the big reason why it's got the nickname it does here is this racetrack, as worn out and difficult as it is, it's got a characteristic of toughness. It is going to make the journey as arduous and as difficult for any driver that dares to venture onto its surface. Who will be able to conquer Rockingham here tonight? Playoff race number 3 ready to be run. The iRacing Silverado pace truck will make the left-hand turn to pit road, and playoff drivers Matthew Weeks and Ashton Lawson get ready to get us underway in the Patti Engineering 170. Truck already on the apron there through 1 and 2. That's Nicholas Caressel. Gonna drop almost all the way to the rear end of the field. Maybe that is by design, as Ashton Lawson got a great launch on the top side, drove it deep into turn 1, cleared Matthew Weeks, and will go to the point. I would say that this is a power move by Lawson, but we've seen Weeks do this before as well. He's been more than willing to give up spots in the early portion of the run and then make them up as we get further into a cycle on these tires.
Yeah, Lawson looks like maybe just kind of, I thought at first was kind of stacking up the top lane, and then Weeks, after maybe the first run through the gears, kind of spun the tires and stacked everybody up. I think that's what happened to Caressel, who was on the apron just trying to avoid the stack up through 1 and 2, but got back going now. Everybody pretty clean. There's pretty much some side-by-side battles here. Nathan Jump looking ahead to Barbara Gelada and Niswanger battling for 7th.
Barbara Gelada had a great run last week at Darlington. Shane Niswanger, one of 3 drivers, I believe, that are in the field here tonight that have previously won at this venue. The other being Elliot Henderson, and then the other one would have been Spencer Owens. We mentioned about the fact that there are a few notable playoff drivers not in the field here tonight. Spencer Owens and Jared Darling are not here due to work-related issues. Christian Peterson actually got a post-race penalty after Darlington last week, and he is not in the field here tonight. So 3 notable playoff drivers that are not on the grid for this evening's race, and be interesting to see where they are situated when we get to, oh boy, wildcard track next week here in the playoffs at Talladega.
Trying to keep everybody on their toes with these tough tracks early. I imagine the Peterson not being here, and even just the others, you talk about Owens and Darling, it's kind of maybe just opened it up for a handful of other drivers that feel like maybe they, second life, even though we've only been just a couple races in here. Now I guess this would be the second race, so it's one of those things that maybe they feel a little more comfortable about a chance to contend, just because it keeps everybody bunched up. And man, there's some of these drivers that look like they're going up a little bit higher, and I feel like that can sometimes just be a little bit easier on the steering, but obviously a lot more track to run up on that top side. We see Barbagelado all the way up top through 1 and 2.
It's incredible when you look here at Rockingham, you don't realize that Dover is actually longer in track configuration than Rockingham is. Rockingham is just a tick under a mile in length, 0.94 miles to be exact. Also similar to Darlington that we were at last week, both ends of the racetrack entirely different. A little bit more of a congested, heavier braking zone into turn 1 and heading into turn 2. Over in 3 and 4, a little bit wider, maybe a little bit more banking, more of a sweeping corner, allowing you to carry more speed. And as we see here, allowing you to be a little bit more multi-groove, as we saw about 3 different lines utilized that time there in the middle portion of this pack.
We talked about it last week. Darlington, when you get side by side, it kind of just slows all your momentum. These guys tonight, and you could see it, like the side-by-side racing, it's almost like they're comfortable doing it, doing a great job of keeping pace and being able to run side-by-side with no issues, and even being as fast or faster than the drivers they're around when you're running side-by-side. We see this battle here. It looks like the 29 of... why am I missing out on the 29 there? But looking to the outside of Niswanger there.
Yes, Brett Malone and that GameStop machine with Battlefield 6 prominently on the hood of his number 29, Shane Niswanger, to his inside. This is the ongoing battle for P6 right now, and just kind of already looking, only 10 laps into this thing, and I'm going to attribute most of this to this worn-out track surface of Rockingham. We're already seeing drivers a tenth to a tenth and a half off of the fast lap times they were laying down when they took the green flag. So we're already starting to see the pace backing down here and drivers having to preserve those tires for the long run. You gotta wonder if that's going to in some way draw some of these drivers that are searching, venturing to those upper grooves through 3 and 4, if that's going to bring them back down to the yellow line.
Yeah, I think and that's what's great about this place. There's so many ways you can enter the corner here and kind of, adjust based on how your truck's driving. And right now, yeah, I think the bottom's maybe more the place to be, especially in 3 and 4. It just seems like it's so much easier to run there. I really like 1 and 2. You kind of have the option to maybe even enter a little bit higher and then cut the corner off on exit. I see a handful of drivers trying a little bit of that. Just narrows up so much off of 2. That's where we see the action. I think we even saw on the start a couple people getting the wall. Looks like Brett Malone just getting it a little bit there, but that happens here. Just so narrow and so easy to be pointed right at the wall when you come off that corner.
We talk about a Darlington stripe. What would it be here? A Rockingham ripple, I guess, on the right side of the truck or something like that? I don't know. Don't know how you would call that souvenir. It's interesting to see Ashton Lawson out here in front. We saw him take the lead on the early beginning of this race from the outside of the front row. Honestly, I'm not surprised to see that. I feel he's coming into tonight with a bit of a devil-may-care attitude because it has been such a tough start to the playoffs for driver 26. You go back to Homestead, he started just outside of the top 10, but he brought it home in 21st. Last week at Darlington, started 8th place, was looking like he was in good shape, and then he ended up getting hit with one of those interesting penalties. We saw him and a couple of other playoff drivers getting hit with a time penalty. He finished in 22nd. He comes into this race mired in the playoff standings, looking to gain points back. Maybe gives him a little bit more freedom to be aggressive here, where he's just trying to have himself maybe not even a decent points day. He wants that win. He wants to get a chunk of the points back he's given up in the first 2 playoff races.
Yeah, the guy that a lot of times, he shows up, and it just seems like it's boom or bust for Ashton, and maybe not by his choice. I think it's just the circumstances he's in, but the boom part of it is usually typically a very fast driver. He typically qualifies well, leads a bunch of laps. He does that a lot. We'll see if he can finish off today's race and maybe get that momentum you're talking about, maybe with a win or a solid finish. It looks like Jared Duda has been creeping in on him here, closing up a little bit. He did make the pass a handful of laps ago on Matthew Weeks for second. Just making sure Lawson, minds his P's and Q's here.
Jared Duda had that victory at Martinsville, looking to join the growing list of multi-time winners here in Season 11. He is the only driver outside of Daniel Nanny that did not make the playoffs despite picking up a checkered flag this season. And, he's seen the likes of Hunter Madalinas and Matthew Weeks and Christian Peterson all go to victory lane multiple times and says, hey, I want to add my name to that multi-time list. I know you guys are battling for a championship, but that doesn't make me any less hungry to have my nose be the first one to that start-finish line when the checkered flag is waving.
Yeah, why not back it up? Ooh, get a little bump to Lawson. I don't know if that works. I mean, a great spot to do it. Just kind of gave him a little bit of a push. He just jumped on the radio, said, my bad. So maybe he just drove in there a little bit hotter than what he thought Lawson was going to. But good spot to do it. It just kind of, both of them went for a little bit of a slide. Nice save and back at it for the lead.
Great save for Lawson, but that will do no favors to his rear tires after that little bit of a slide in the center of 3 and 4. You see Jared Duda again continuing to search, kind of diamonding the corner there. Enters low, shoots almost up to the outside wall, then finds the rotation through the center of the corner. Great straight line speed there off of 4 onto the front stretch and closing up the gap between himself and Ashton Lawson. Matthew Weeks looking on there in that third position. And Jackson Sims, if we want to talk about a driver that's been consistent here ever since the playoffs began, maybe even right on the eve of the playoffs, Jackson Sims has been that guy. He has been a driver that we were seeing consistently up inside of the top 10 middle portion of the season. Now, it's not a surprise to see him consistently up inside of the top 5.
For sure. Almost probably lately more consistent than anyone else. It's just a matter of maybe not having the wins that some of the other drivers that he's contending with in this playoff battle. It looks like Duda's going to complete the pass now and get away from Lawson. Nice job kind of almost pulling a slide job to 3 and 4 the previous lap, and then just kind of be up on that outside lane and use that to grab the lead here and even pull away a little bit.
Mentioned about the points coming into this race, how close they were. Matthew Weeks 2 points over Hunter Madalinas, and I mentioned that there were a couple of drivers that had a shot of maybe getting up into that conversation as well with a good run today. Jackson Sims, one of those drivers, he was 10 points back coming into tonight, and Elliot Henderson was 13 coming into this evening, 4th in the standings. Right now, Elliot just on the latter half of the top 10 in the 9th position. I ended up last week making an educated guess on what I thought his throwback scheme was there under the lights at Darlington. I did get the corrected scheme here this week. He's actually driving a Bruco Motorsports throwback to when Jamie McMurray drove the number 66 Duraflame Dodge to victory lane in the Xfinity Series, then the Nationwide Series at Darlington. So now that I see it, it makes perfect sense. I got the wrong scheme last week, but appreciate him letting me know what the throwback was. He said that I could shout it out here tonight because he's running it again here this evening. Saw a couple of drivers actually that have brought their throwback schemes from Darlington over here to Rockingham, and why not? Another historic racetrack, bring the historic scheme back here for back-to-back weeks.
Nice of Elliot to provide us that correction. I also shout out to him. I know we talked about it early in the race last week. He was looking for top 10 number 100 in this league last week at Darlington, and he got it done. So a huge milestone. The most top 10s in this league. Long-time racer in this league and multi-time champion.
Speaking of champion, the former champion, defending champion, Hunter Madalinas right there, making a pass on his teammate, Elliot Henderson. So move the 7 up into the 9th position as he'll look to draw a bead for 8th on Brent Malone. Madalinas now in a three-way tie with Christian Peterson and Matthew Weeks for second most victories on the season, 3 apiece for those drivers, and also, as mentioned, came into this race 2 points behind the 56. Right now, Weeks holding down the 3rd spot. Madalinas has got a little bit of work to do here as he's trying to make his way up into the upper half of the top 10.
Yeah, just kind of a little slower pace than I kind of thought he would. I mean, ultimately up just a couple spots. I see Barbara Gelada, Nathan Jump, who are in front of him, just moving up maybe a little bit faster than Madalinas, but now Madalinas makes another pass to move up 5 positions, which is how many positions Barbara Gelada and Jump have moved up. So just a little bit behind schedule, maybe, just being a little bit more patient, and but ultimately moving up along with some of the other drivers here in the top 10. Matthew Durr has moved back about 5 spots, so a handful of positions changing up in the top 10.
Jared Duda, after taking the lead, he's not been able to really get away. Ashton Lawson, Matthew Weeks still keeping him honest, about maybe 3 car lengths from the 53 back to the 26, and now Matthew Weeks able to hook the bottom there through 3 and 4, trying to see if maybe he can find a way around Ashton Lawson for 2nd place. Sims a distant 4th, and Barb Gelada right now trying to hold that final spot inside of the top 5, trying to hold off a former winner from this racetrack in Shane Neiswanger. The series has been to this venue 5 times, and there's only a handful of drivers that have run all 5 of those races. Elliot Henderson, Shane Neiswanger, and Eric Kempf. So you got to wonder if that kind of experience is going to help those drivers in their preparation for this one, as we got trouble there. That's Aiden DuPont down on the apron, and he's got some damage there as well. We're still green, not sure exactly what happened to him. I also saw the 14 of Gavin Fitzgerald a little slow, so I don't know if there was contact or if someone just maybe snapped loose, maybe the 00 there, but he definitely made contact with something or someone.
I was running 13th. I heard him key up and just apologize. So I'm not sure if there was a mistake on Aiden's part here. Or the 10. Yeah, it might have been the 10.
Hunter Brittle, and somehow that car did a complete 180 and kept going. Talking about Hunter Brittle, but definitely some damage to his truck as well as Aiden DuPont. And with that occurring down below the white line, I guess it was deemed off of the racing surface, so we stay green. Here's another look. Oh, and then this was not sure who we're on board with here. Great save nonetheless. Might have actually been on board with Eric Kempf, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah, and a little bit of a stack up maybe behind, just seeing the cars crash. And this is a kind of a unique situation because they all kind of went down on the apron there, and then, of course, that won't cause a caution. The system knows that they're out of the way, keep it green. So definitely lost ground for DuPont and Brittle and potentially Kempf there, it looks like. So that's going to make it interesting. You got a couple drivers here, Lewis Woodall, Travis Hamby, who have been kind of moving backwards. Duda is reeling those guys in. This is definitely a track that, tends to bring out lappers, especially once you get a long green run and potentially pit stops. So lap traffic is a big part of racing here.
Yeah, it is definitely a short track in just about every sense of the word. And to your point, means that if you're the leader, your clean air is good, but only for a time. Is Jared Duda going to get up into the driver's side door of Travis Hamby, making his way around the 3 to put him a lap down. That just shows the difficulty that there is, especially when we're this long into a run and the tires don't grip the way they did earlier on when you're trying to make your way by the slower traffic.
It's almost like, kind of thought he was going to have more grip there on the bottom and just slid up into Hamby there. So ultimately, everybody kept it going, but it definitely helped Weeks close up a little bit. Was able to gain about a half a second on Duda there that last lap.
So Matthew Weeks make his way around Hamby pretty handily there. Ashton Lawson looking to do the same. Next up ahead here is Lewis Woodall for the leaders, the number 13 Pepsi truck. That seems good 3-way battle going on now for 5th place. Hunter Madalinas has been able to get by Shane Nicewanger. Nathan jumped right there as well. Matter of fact, this might turn into a four-way battle for fourth because all three of them are starting to close up on the 27 of William Barbagellata.
And it sure seems like I mentioned Madalinas maybe just a little slower of a start. He must have been knew what he was doing, because ultimately a couple tenths faster than these drivers, been moving through this kind of back half of the top 10 now late in the run here. So definitely did a great job of saving his stuff and able to pass Jump and Nicewanger, and now going to look at passing Barbagellata.
You're definitely seeing a lot of drivers have difficulty getting the power down the exit of the corner. Seen Hunter Madalinas extremely loose off of both 2 and 4. Barbagellata had a wiggle off of 2 the previous lap. So drivers, they are clamoring for grip right now, trying to hang on desperately to these trucks before they're able to bring them to pit road and get themselves a little bit of extra grip with some fresh Goodyear tires. It's interesting you mentioned here, as we're continuing to watch Madalinas march his way up through the field, how this is a little bit slower of a progressive pace than you expected to see. I actually looked back, and this may be one of the weaker tracks for Hunter Madalina statistically coming into this playoff race. In the 5 previous events that the Great Lake Truck Series has had here, he's participated in 4 of them. He has finished in the top 10 twice. He's yet to score a top 5, a 13.5 place average finish. So maybe that was his problem in those races, maybe a little too aggressive getting through the field, so he's dialed it back a little bit here. You win a championship, sometimes it changes your mentality of how you approach racetracks in the future, so maybe that's the case here for driver number 7.
The competition. Hunter Madalinas is getting better at driving trucks fast. That's even scarier if you think about how fast he typically is. So yeah, that's maybe better, different mentality, and that's something as you mentioned, something a champion can learn. Barbagellata in front of him just got the wall a little bit, running up at the top lane, but keeps rolling. Oh, that's gonna be tough to hold on to. Nice save.
A lot of racetrack there on the back straightaway for him to be able to gather it back up, as now he has Hunter Madalinas looking to his left rear quarter panel. Oh, we got trouble, and right in front, that's Eric Kempf in the 62, who had just come to pit road for fresh tires, and maybe cold tires there, maybe a little bit slippery off the corner. He gathers it up, but that thing was headed for the attenuator wall there on the front straightaway.
And able to ultimately save it and get back rolling, but definitely lost a little bit of ground. Came down, got some tires. Looks like Josh Robin's gonna come down. I'm thinking, my number I kind of was thinking about here. I'd love to see if you could get as far as 55, just to try to cut this race into 3, chunks. But pitting a little bit early, not a bad move, just to get tires on and try to short pit a little bit. The only thing is it just doesn't give you as much options as far as how far you can run on the next 2. You maybe have to run a little bit longer on the next 2. So we'll see when some of these drivers pit. I see Matthew Weeks has been slowly reeling in. Jared Duda, we'll see if he can maybe make a pass here before the end of this run.
Whoa! Man, major wiggle out of Matthew Weeks there, entering onto Thunder Alley. So even these drivers up here in the top 2 positions really struggling with their trucks. Maybe a little kiss to that safer barrier for the points leader coming into tonight, 3-time winner Matthew Weeks, as he'll now send it down to the inside of turn 1. Lewis Woodall has made his way onto pit road, and it's kind of interesting. It's almost a little deja vu from last week. There were 3 drivers that seemed to, during that long green flag cycle, seemed to be the first ones to dive onto pit road, tried the undercut strategy. Eric Kempf, Josh Robin, they were 2 of those drivers, and they've been the first 2 to dive onto pit road here to begin this pit stop cycle. It worked for Josh Robin pretty well last week. We'll see if it does again here today, as we're still waiting to see if anybody else is going to make that dive onto pit lane here. And remember back, I mentioned that last week at Darlington, we had a number of drivers, a number of playoff drivers, have difficulty with some commitment line violation, got 90-second penalties, and subsequently some front runners did not get the finishes indicative of the speed that their trucks had. Where does Rockingham rank in terms of just how easy or difficult it's going to be for these drivers to make their way off the banking and onto pit lane?
I mean, it's definitely not an easy track, especially, you want to run the banking through 3 and 4, of course, just to keep the momentum up. So if you're racing around other drivers, you got to communicate. As Duda gets the wall a little bit there too. I think communication's key. You want to make sure you're letting the drivers around you know that you're pitting, and hopefully that helps just give you some room so you can slow it down somewhat on the banking before you come down. But then it's just a matter of, like you say, making sure you're on the right side of that wall entering down there. And of course the flat can sometimes be just really hard to gain grip, whether you're on entry or even on exit. So and then even on exit, when you come back on the track, you go down that narrow backstretch trying to get back in line. It's there's definitely going to be some action here when they do pit. The thing that scares me a little bit, you got Josh Robin, Eric Kepf, Lewis Woodall who've made their pit stops. Looks like Brett Malone now coming down here. It puts you down 2 laps for most of these drivers, so definitely needing this to go green for a while to make sure you cycle through the pit stops for this strategy to work. So a big gamble, but I love it. Like the idea of trying something different for some of these drivers that maybe just want to try to steal a good run.
Yeah, it definitely is a gamble. Oh, and right as you were mentioning there, the gamble is not going to pay off. The caution is out as Aiden DuPont parked up against the outside safer barrier there on the exit of turn 2.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for a handful of these drivers that made that pit stop. Looks like maybe Brett Malone is going to be able to stay just 1 lap. No, he's going to be 2 laps down, I think. But yeah, it's a tough break for these drivers that were trying to hit pit road. And I mean, Eric Kepf was really close to getting back to just 1 lap down, which would have gave him a chance to get back in this. Like the 73 of Kyle Cooper got into DuPont there.
I mean, DuPont was already up into the safer barrier and no more room he was going to be able to give. And unfortunately, the contact made between those two. They were not battling for position. DuPont was a lap down. Cooper was in the 18th position on the tail end of the lead lap. And yeah, that's a tough situation right there when both drivers are having difficulty holding the bottom.
It's going to send pretty much everybody that hadn't pitted down pit road here. I said lap 55. We're pretty close. That was kind of my magic number. That's going to set these guys up to potentially make it on one more stop if we go green again. But yeah, first set of tires here for majority of the front runners.
So this is an interesting scenario for some of those that had already come to pit road, like Eric Kemp, Josh Robin, and Lewis Woodall. Because for Woodall and Robin, you've put about 5 green flag laps on your tires. For Eric Kemp, you put about 10 green flag laps on your tires. And I mentioned that back beginning of this race, around that point, you were already losing a tenth to a tenth and a half in terms of lap time. So we'll have to see if that trio of drivers elect to take the wave around here, or are they going to have to come to pit road and still remain 2 laps down?
Yeah, and I think, your best option would be to take the wave around here. Just, it's so hard to gain 2 laps back, being 2 laps down. So it looks like pretty much everybody that kind of got stuck there. Looks like Brett Malone, Lewis Woodall, Eric Kepf, Josh Robin, they're all going to try for the wave around here, which, yeah, probably a smart move. It's going to put you 1 lap down. If you have a quick caution here, one of them potentially would get the free pass. They can all battle for that here. Potentially with a quick caution. Otherwise, even if you go for a little while and you get another caution, then you have an opportunity then to potentially put on your tires and maybe run longer later to try to get that lap back. It just kind of keeps your race alive by taking this wave around. Unless you're pretty much out of, your tires are gone, the rubber is gone from your tires, and you almost have to pit, then I prefer a wave around. It just gives you 1 extra opportunity to try to save your race.
Well, you mentioned about Brent Malone. It actually looks like he did manage to stay only 1 lap down at the time that caution waved, and taking the wave around will put him back on the lead lap. 20 drivers will be on the lead lap here. 5 drivers will be fighting for the free pass should we get another caution. Working only our first yellow of the evening here at Rockingham, and Jared Duda is going to get us back underway here. Great launch. Aston Lawson going to try and follow him through as he'll go side by side with Matthew Weeks for second place. Interesting to see how aggressive we are here on this restart. It's the closest everybody's been since the initial drop of the green flag.
Pretty pretty stacked up here. No checkups, but ultimately everybody close together. Looks like we have a battle for second with Weeks and Lawson side by side. Weeks looks like got the momentum, maybe trying to look 3 wide there is Barber Gelada. He gives Lawson a little bit of a shove going into 1.
All over the back bumper of that Buzzin' Brews Chevrolet Silverado for 3rd place. Madalinas and Jackson Sims, they're knotted up for 5th. As now Madalinas drives it deep into 3. He'll get alongside of Barber Gelada, try and take the 4th position, but Barber Gelada gets the run off the corner. Now he's back alongside of Ashton Lawson. It's like a conveyor belt of positionings here. 4th suddenly becomes 3rd, suddenly becomes 5th. Just matters on what kind of momentum you're able to get on the entry to the corner and off the corner.
Yeah, just the restart opportunity here. Barber Gelada really gaining some spots, taking advantage of everybody being close together. Going to get all the way up to 2nd. It's the Madalinas now, cracking the top 5 for I think the first time tonight. So just an opportunity for something. We see the opposite where Jackson Sims is back to 7th here, just not able to protect some of those positions on these on this earlier first restart.
Who's looking up ahead here at the top 6 at bright yellow Menards. Number 11 of Nathan Jump. Got a couple of drivers up here that could, in a sense, upset the apple cart in terms of the playoffs and pick up a victory as a non-playoff driver. Jared Duda, William Barber Gelada, and Nathan Jump all up here inside of the top 6. And as I said, you may not necessarily have that blue playoff banner above your windshield or that blue playoff spoiler on the rear decklet of your truck. That doesn't make you any less hungry to find victory lane. And in the case of an Ashton Lawson or a Nathan Jump, as we've talked about, they've been in the conversation so many times this season. They've had runner-up finishes. They've led numerous laps in races. They've just not been able to close out the deal. And for a driver like a Nathan Jump, who knows that he's not battling for a championship now, while it takes a little bit of pressure off of you, it also gives you a little bit more levity here to be able to be a little bit more aggressive, try some things, maybe in preparation for season 12.
Yeah, just potential champions, really. That a lot of these drivers that you talk about have a chance tonight that just didn't work out, circumstances, or maybe where the schedule worked out in there. For them, it just didn't give them the opportunity to compete for a playoff spot this year. It's the reset gives you that chance again potentially next season. But right now, I think it's just bragging rights, learning more about your competitors. A lot of these drivers that have been here for a long time are also racing around some of these drivers that have only been here for a season or 2, and sometimes it's an opportunity just to learn where your competitors are good, maybe learn from them, and a great opportunity tonight. I think a guy like Barber Gelada, he's won before, he's been competitive before. I think just trying to get back into that spot of consistently battling for a win, and here tonight just doing a great job now up here in 2nd and really just putting some pressure on Jared Duda.
I love this onboard here with Barber Gelada looking ahead to Jared Duda, because if you just watch the back end of Jared Duda's truck, we talk about this old worn out track surface. Look at the bumps that they have to go over. Look how the truck unloads down into the banking of turn 3. It is not a smooth ride by any means for these drivers, and they're having to do it for 170 circuits.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a ride around here that just every once in a while, even a little bit of bounce will send you up the track. It's just a rough race, and tough to kind of manhandle the trucks around this place. It's fun though. I think that's the biggest thing. I look at the schedule: Homestead, Darlington, Rockingham. What a 3 great driver racetracks that are always fun to get behind the wheel. Makes me want to get back out there, but enjoy watching these guys try to navigate it as well. As back up front, Barber Gelada peeked to the inside of Duda here for the lead. Gonna give up that spot entering 3.
Kind of showing the nose, maybe try and force the 53 of Duda to drive it into the corner a little bit harder this time in the entry to turn 1. A couple of non-playoff drivers duking it out for the race late here at Rockingham. You mentioned a word just moments ago, opportunity, and I look here at a couple of drivers latter half of the top 10. We mentioned some notable names not in the field here tonight: Spencer Owens and Christian Peterson. Owens came into this race 6th in points, Christian Peterson 8th in the standings. There's a couple of drivers that were around that area in the points coming into tonight that now will be able to move up in the standings if they continue to run where they're at. I'm talking about Shane Neiswanger and Matthew Durr. There you see, they are now 5th and 6th in the standings. Neiswanger's been in the top 10 all night long in 8th. Matthew Durr has just been basically right on that 10th position in the running order for the entirety of the evening. Two drivers doing a great job here tonight with the opportunity they're given to move their way up a couple of spots in the standings in preparation for Talladega.
And with these non-playoff drivers up here kind of controlling some of these top 10 spots, that just helps keep some of those drivers from scoring a ton of points, whether it's the ones that are trying to, expand the lead or trying to close it up. So I think this is going to be really interesting to see what happens in the second half of this run, because we've seen Duda and Barbagelati here kind of really battling pretty much since the drop of the green flag for this run. Weeks, we saw him run really well on the second half of the run, even closing up on Duda at the end. I just wonder if he's saving even more this time. Ashton Lawson, we saw him on the first run be really fast initially and then kind of move backwards. It'll be fun to see if he is maybe trying to save a little bit more this run. And then, of course, Madalinas was fast on the second half of the run. So I think this top 5 is, if we go green here, is going to close up real nice to potentially have a 5-way battle up here for the lead. I'm excited to see how this goes.
Yeah, and that caution kind of was a bit of a reset as well into kind of some comers and goers, if you will. I look back at 11th place, Nicholas Caressel. When the green flag dropped to begin this thing, we saw him down the apron of 1 and 2, letting most of the field on by. He's been able to work his way back up to try and knock on the door of a top 10. Also, Gavin Fitzgerald, saw him back outside of the top 15 that first run. Now he's made his way up into the 12th position. So that caution coming out has allowed some drivers to, in a sense, hit the reset button, gather what they learned from the first 50 laps, and now they're putting it to use here on this restart run.
See what this brings us. See this close battle in between Henderson and Neiswanger there. Henderson drove past Neiswanger entering 1, but was just barely past. And they maybe traded a little paint from front bumper to back bumper there, but Henderson able to grab that spot and drive away here maybe a little bit for 8th.
Now going to try and see if he can get away from Neiswanger and close up on Jackson Sims. Those two came into this race separated by 3 points for 3rd in the standings. Sims over Henderson, only 1 position separating them on track currently, with Sims in 7th and Henderson right now in the 8th position.
And it's pretty much single filed out now. More drivers just maybe saving their stuff here. We got another green run here, which is, it's great to see the ability for these drivers. There's nothing worse when you're a driver, maybe a track like this or where we've been the last few weeks with Homestead and Darlington, the idea of just saving your tires and then all of a sudden getting a caution and you haven't used any of your tire yet. So a lot of these drivers probably happy to be running green here in hopes that maybe the second half of this run they can take off. I'm thinking, you probably have another 20 laps or so and you could potentially do the short pit and try some strategy if you're one of these drivers that maybe doesn't have as much on the line. We'll have to see if that happens, but right now, just this is somewhat of a longer race with just the laps that you do here, 170 laps around this smaller track. So just kind of getting through and clicking off some laps here.
So we look at Hunter Madalinas closing up here on Ashton Lawson for 4th place. It's interesting. You mentioned the 3 racetracks that we've been to so far here to begin the playoffs. Homestead, Miami, Darlington last week, Rockingham here tonight. Drivers' racetracks where you can basically determine your fortunes or misfortunes. When we look to next week, the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway, we mentioned about the fact this isn't a win-you're-in playoff system. This is all about consistency and big picture racing. When I look at drivers like Matthew Weeks and Hunter Madalinas, who are in that gridlock fight for the points lead coming into this race, how much in the back of their minds do you think it is more come away with a good run here tonight? If you're in the conversation for the win, great, go for it, but do not tear up your truck. Put yourself in a bad situation going into a track next week where maybe you're not going to be in control of your own fate.
I guess I feel like a lot of the drivers probably don't look too far ahead, and maybe there's a lot of times where we interview them after the race and like, where are we going next week? Oh yeah, that's they kind of forget, and so maybe we'll surprise some of them tonight when we remind them that Talladega is next week. But yeah, I don't know, maybe some of these drivers have have planned out their playoffs, kind of maybe knowing what they need to do, and maybe Talladega they know that they're giving themselves a little bit more wiggle room, and yeah, I think if you have a good run tonight and set yourself up, maybe you can give away a few points at Talladega. I think, like you said, these drivers that have the ability to be a little bit more loose and flexible without the pressure. If you are one of these playoff drivers that have a little bit of a points cushion, which I don't know there'll be many, you can go to Talladega and maybe be a little bit more aggressive, which sometimes pays off there. So. Matthew Weeks around Barbergelata to second here, and we talked about seeing what Weeks is able to do on the long run here, and then Barbergelata, we saw him really working on Jared Duda, but it probably used up a little bit of tire, and now paying for that here on the second half of the run.
Yeah, we saw prior to that caution waving, Matthew Weeks was putting up a good fight with Jared Duda, but then he also started to fall off a little bit, and it was more than likely going to be pit stops that was going to be a deciding factor between the two. Now we'll see how much pressure Matthew Weeks is able to put on Jared Duda here, who is ripping the top there through 3 and 4. I mean, there is maybe not a sheet of paper between the right side of his truck and the safer barrier off the final corner here. Matthew Weeks going to have to make up a little over a second of time right now, and he seems pretty committed to the inside line of the racetrack. We really haven't seen the 56 venture up any higher than middle groove, while other drivers, they're willing to live dangerously up in the outside lanes here, almost shaking hands with the outside wall. And as soon as I say that, typical drivers, maybe knowing we're talking about them, Weeks goes up there to the outside lane through 3 and 4.
Yeah, I like what Weeks has been doing down in 1, just driving it kind of, driving it right down to the bottom, but letting it float up, and then, kind of diamonding 1 and 2, and then, yeah, in 3 and 4, just been trying the outside lane a little bit more lately, but here, going to try the diamond. Now we got up front, Jared Duda passing Travis Hanby again. We saw that in the first run be a little bit of an obstacle. I had nothing against Travis, but yeah, that was a little bit, little scarier that time for Duda, but able to get by with no contact.
Yeah, Travis Hanby was a driver who actually was able to come to pit road under the caution and get 4 fresh tires. The next drivers that Jared Duda will be catching up to are drivers who elected to take the wave around under our only yellow flag here tonight. Much older tires on Eric Kempf, Lewis Woodall, and Josh Robin. We'll see how much of a fight they're able to put up here against the 53. They are still clamoring for a caution to come out after they got trapped 2 laps down, coming to pit road under green flag conditions, and then the caution untimely for them, trapping them multiple laps down. They had to take the wave around to get to 1 down, but obviously at a much higher deficit in terms of the grip they've got in their tires in comparison to the race leaders.
Yeah, and even looking at those drivers that pitted and ultimately went a lap down. Another one that I was just kind of looking this whole run, Aiden DuPont has been the first car 1 lap down, and it's obviously we've seen him have some issues tonight, so a caution would be huge for him right now to kind of reset his race and give him a chance to battle up and inside the top 20 if the caution falls before these green flag pit stops. But I mean, we're getting fairly close to that window opening. I have a feeling we're gonna see some drivers pit soon, and whether that brings out a caution or ultimately sends us into green flag pit stops and we're able to complete the cycle, we'll see. But yeah, we'll see if I look at Barbergelata. He's been moving backwards a little bit now. I wonder if he's a guy that potentially would pit a little bit early, knowing that he's used up his tires, but we'll see.
Hey, you mentioned about that target lap in the early going of this race around lap 55. We've gone about 37 laps here for the race leaders, so we'd be looking around lap 110 for these drivers to maybe come to pit road 55 laps into this run. Do we see anybody maybe stretch it a little bit further? Because that would put us 60 laps to the finish, as I believe we actually have one on pit road right now, that being the 13 of Lewis Woodall.
Yeah, I think last week we saw the same thing at Darlington. A lot of the playoff drivers just run long just to be a little more safe, and just make sure that if a caution comes out, they're still on the lead lap. I think that's the safe play. So I definitely think you'll see that with guys like Weeks and Lawson here trying to just, Madalenas just trying to run as long as possible just to make sure that they don't get trapped like some of the other drivers we talked about. As Eric Kep's now going back 2 laps down, just been waiting for that caution, just hasn't gotten it, unfortunately.
Barbagellata going backwards after we saw him with an early surge on the restart. Looks like he's used up a lot of what he had in the life of those tires. Ashton Lawson making his way around him to move up onto the podium, and now about to fall into the clutches of Hunter Madalenas. Nathan Jump also starting to close up on this as well. You see that big slide there of William Barbagellata. He is slid off of 2 and hit the wall off of 4 quite a number of times here in the previous 10 laps.
Yeah, just the...
Oh, and there's another big net.
Hold on to it. Looks like he's going to. It'd be so tough. So tough when you, this is such a momentum track, and then all of a sudden you get the wall a little bit, and it's just like you don't know how much grip you have or if something's happened. So yeah, for Barbagellata, you hit the wall, then down the front stretch you go into 1 and 2, and you're like, I don't know how much grip I'm gonna have or if this truck is half broken, but looks like he's kind of got back rolling here and falling in right behind Madalenas here.
Yeah, this track kind of reminds me a lot of Bristol. It can kind of lull you into a false sense of security that you can get back into the throttle and the truck's going to turn off of the corner, and obviously we're seeing there in the case for Barbagellata. Mashes the throttle down, all of a sudden you feel that front tires slide, the truck's nose does not start pointing away from the wall, and man, he has got his hands full here with that machine off of turn 4. Had that great save a couple of laps ago and nearly had to pull off another one right there.
It's just a matter of, you're still 5th, so it's like as much as you're maybe feel like you're out of control and losing your chance to potentially contend for a win, you're still in 5th spot. So if a caution comes out here in a little bit, or if you can get just a little bit longer and hit pit road, under green with everybody else, you still have a chance to reset and get back in this. So ultimately just keep it underneath you, keep rolling. Nice spot here right in between Madalenas and Jump. I heard Jump a handful of laps ago say he was following Madalenas, just kind of seeing where he was saving, and kind of asked like, hey, when are we going to move forward here? And I feel like as much as we thought these guys would potentially move forward, it really hasn't happened as well as it did the second or the first run. So maybe just everybody's saving a little bit more this time, and that's working into the favor of keeping everybody kind of in the same spot.
Take a look at that 13 of Lewis Woodall on the inside. If you're wondering what the differences of speed of fresh tires to old tires, Exhibit A is that Pepsi number 13, as he just blew the doors off of drivers battling 3-way for that 4th position. He came to pit road about 7 laps ago, put 4 fresh tires on his machine, and he is turning some lightning fast lap times now for Lewis Woodall. His goal is to try and get up there to Jared Duda, try and get one of his 3 laps back the hard way, but still going to be a long, arduous road to get back onto the lead lap for Lewis. It looks like Eric Kemp has returned to the racetrack as well. He had a very lengthy stay on pit road and now finds himself 7 laps down.
Tough spot. I keep watching our leader, Jared Duda. He's been able to now kind of get away from Matthew Weeks, but almost every lap he's running in 3 and 4, and even kind of just getting into the wall just a little bit, maybe overstepping how far he's going into each corner and making sure he uses all the track. But in 3 and 4 down here, he's been grabbing the wall almost every time, just making that time he did a good job of keeping it off there. But yeah, it's a great it's working right now as far as going up. We talked about keeping that piece of paper between the wall, doing a great job, and it's really working on the late part of these tires.
He's managed to get around Rod fast now, put him a lap down. Hunter Brittle, you see right back there, he had that spin along with Aiden DuPont down the back straightaway earlier on in this race. Now falls a lap down, currently in the 19th position. About 7 seconds ahead would be the next driver that Jared Duda would have to worry about. Last driver on the lead lap, the 73 of Kyle Cooper. Duda's done a pretty good job here, though, of maneuvering his way through traffic, whether it's drivers that are currently a couple of laps down or just barely on the tail end of the lead lap. He's going to have some company here in the form of those fresh tires of Lewis Woodall here in a few laps, as Nathan Jump putting the pressure here on Hunter Madalene. As you mentioned, he was saying, hey, when are we going? Looks like he wants to go a little bit further, as this is going to be for fourth.
Battle here, just tough spot to be with old tires. Everybody probably wanted to use the entire track, but once you get side by side late in the run, a little tougher. Just looking to the inside here, Jackson Sims got the best seat here and potentially opportunity to race both these guys. It looks like he's been closing up the last few laps here and maybe has something for these guys trying to battle up into the top 5.
Josh Robin has made a pit stop as Hunter Madalenas, a big save there off of turn 4, and Nathan Jump will move to the outside. The right rear quarter panel going to use Rod Fastnow as a pick there through 1 and 2. So move Jump up into 4th. Sims will follow in line, and Jump's going to get the wall. We got Fastnow into the wall here in the back straightaway. Looks like everybody's pointed in the right direction, but just moments after he moved into the 4th position, Jump looks like he may be diving for pit road.
Yeah, it just looked like maybe, we talked about you use the whole track right now with the way the tires are going, just the lapper of Fosnow just kind of, just in a weird spot for everybody to navigate, and then ultimately just, trying to handle these trucks on this track, and you have to think about something else, and then it's just easy to mess up. And we saw all of them kind of have moments there, and this might just throw Jump on our strategy. We talked about a guy that doesn't have as much to lose. We'll see if potentially, depending on how much damage he has, if he can get back out there and start using these tires, maybe potentially move himself up into the top 5 for this next and final run if we get through green flag pit stops.
Yeah, that's going to be the mitigating factor, right? Just how much damage did he sustain on that right front fender? We've seen a couple of drivers have some damage here in this race that have still been able to have pretty accurate speed. I ended up seeing the Aiden DuPont. You pointed out that he was holding the free pass position for most of this run before Jared Duda caught the tail end of the field. Hunter Brittle was still turning some decent lap time, so if he hasn't hurt that machine too much, depending on how much time he spends on pit road getting any damage repaired, Nathan Jump might be able to have that moment there off of turn 2 work to his benefit still, as big save by Madalenas there as the fresh tires of Josh Robin work their way on by. Madalenas up there and into that outside wall, and it kind of looks like similar to Darlington last week. You get up into that safer barrier, it's like your truck is a magnet. It's very difficult to get yourself unglued from the safer barrier without it wanting to snap.
Yeah, it's really tough to get away from that, and you get the wall a little bit, and it's like, come. And the worst is when then you pull it off, and then somebody's next to you. Oh, we see Travis Hamby maybe back there getting the wall. Yeah, Nathan Jump has been on pit road, still on pit road working on damage, so it's going to end his opportunity for a solid finish tonight. I see Kyle Cooper was the last driver on the lead lap. He came down and pitted here, so we'll see if fresh tires, there's an opportunity for him to get back out there and maybe gain some positions here. This is right about where, if you're looking at this second, the second and third run right now, this is about splitting it in half if you pitted now. So running a little bit longer here is just giving basically being maybe a little bit more safe. I hear Ashton Lawson calling out that he's going to hit pit road. Here he comes from third.
Kind of a game of chicken right now, right? Based off of what we saw with the timing of that first caution. You want to come to pit road. You want to be the first one on the outlap with the fresh tires, but you kind of almost want to be that last driver as well, just in case the caution comes out, because you've already seen what's happened to some drivers having to play from behind after being trapped multiple laps down with a caution waving after you've made a pit stop, and other drivers still have to.
Yeah, this is we talked about Ashton Lawson needing a big night to potentially get back in the championship. This would be a huge swing either way. Potentially a gamble, like you said. He maybe needs a gamble to try to do something here. It's just a matter of if it works out. If it doesn't, going to be in an even bigger hole after tonight's race.
See if the pit stop there by Ashton Lawson will draw more drivers pit road. Looked like William Barbage, a lot of late choice there from top to bottom, trying to make his way into pit road. Actually, did the engine just let go on his machine? There is smoke billowing out from underneath his truck.
Yeah, it looked like maybe he had a connection issue or something. He keyed up on the radio and just kind of was saying about Nicewanger and Kressel, just was kind of questioning what happened there, and they kind of were like, we didn't even see you. So I don't know if when he rejoined, if the net code then just sent him in the wall, but it just destroyed his truck, and engine went on that truck from the contact. So unfortunately out of this race, or at least going to be done for a majority of the end of this thing. So Nicewanger, Kressel, Elliot Henderson here, they're all kind of like laughing on the radio, just saying like, wow, like there was a little bit of a surprise there. All of them getting through that.
Yeah, they were almost 3 wide behind Barbagelata there when we saw him dive off the banking down to the apron to head to pit road. So very fortunate that we got through that relatively unscathed with only Barbagelata, and he was able to make it onto pit road safely. Looks like more drivers are coming in. I believe our leader, Jared Duda, has made the dive onto pit lane.
Yeah, huge gamble for him, even though he probably didn't have to. Ultimately, just maybe the strategy he wants with the tires, feeling more comfortable with what's working for him. Deciding to pit. Weeks is going to pit now as well. So I think you're going to see a lot of drivers coming down. Looks like Jackson Sims, Hunter Madalinas. We're going to keep Kressel out. He's going to inherit the lead.
Matthew Durr, Elliot Henderson, Brent Malone, Gavin Fitzgerald all came down on the same lap as the 53. It's like Brent Kincott, James Shiflett, they're in as well. Russell Side Jackson cycling to first and second. They're going to run a little bit longer here before making the dive into pit road. Here comes Kressel from the top spot. Mass migration to pit road here. It seemed like as soon as the leader Jared Duda came in, everybody says, all right, now's the time.
I think cutting this race into 3, I kind of felt like that was kind of right about where the window was. So ultimately these drivers, like we said, they went a little bit longer just to maybe be safe, but just because they all did, I think they were all at a point they were all ready to come down and need gas anyways. So just the fact that all of them were running long just made it where everybody was on the same strategy and having to pit all at the same time here. But we see Ashton Lawson's been able to get all the way up to second here by pitting early, and that's going to give him the opportunity just to gain a little bit of track position here. Just a matter of, the frustrating part is for him is Jared Duda just did a great job on that second half of that last run to be able to put some ground between these drivers and get to pit road before everybody else. So he's going to have a huge lead here and be able to take control of this race for the second half. It's just a matter of if something will happen to bring out a caution.
Not only that, but also not with the execution on pit road, but a flyer of an outlap for Jared Duda, the fastest lap of the race so far at a 24.644. So that kind of speed right out of the gate here on the short run, and we've seen how good his truck has been here on the long run. Very difficult to combat, even if you were able to get a little bit of an advantage on the undercut, being Ashton Lawson. Now, Lawson pitted about 5-6 laps sooner than most of the other drivers up here inside of the top 5. We see Matthew Weeks starting to close in. Just how much harder does Ashton Lawson have to work here on preserving those tires for the long run than the driver trying to hunt him down right now in the current points leader?
It's going to be tough. Long way to go for Lawson, even just having 6 laps older tires. I think ultimately he's got to, be smart with what he can do as far as racing Weeks, but I think he probably knows it's going to be tough to hold him off. Could you potentially keep your momentum up and not spend too much time battling Weeks. Let him go and potentially use the next 7 seconds to try to stay ahead of Sims and grab a podium finish here. We'll see what happens, but Weeks is quickly closing, and you see how fast he is able to potentially get around him.
Little less than 4 seconds the advantage. Now 3.5 seconds from Jared Duda back to this battle for second place. One thing looking at the point standings coming into tonight that's going to be a little frustrating. Oh, we got trouble for a driver back there in the back straightaway. Is that Josh Robin? I couldn't tell exactly who that was. They darted down to the inside wall, but looks like they might have kept it pointed in the right direction here as we remain green. But the frustrating thing for a number of these drivers is Madalenas, Weeks, Henderson, Sims. They're all running really well here tonight. The problem is they're all battling each other. So while you're trying to gain ground on your competition, right now they're all kind of stifled out because they're all in the same vicinity. You had 2-point separation from Weeks back to Madalenas. You had 3-point separation from Sims back to Elliott Henderson. And for both of those battles, there's only 2 position separation on the racetrack.
Yeah, and ultimately some bonus points with Jared Duda dominating this race. That's, taking away from these opportunities for some of these drivers to gain some points that way. So, yeah, we look at the points as they run, and Weeks ultimately still, just a handful of points ahead of Madalenas, but not much difference between everybody throughout the top 6, really. Just kind of about where they came into this race. Maybe just losing a little bit of ground as Weeks sits up here in second.
Yeah, I'm only seeing maybe about 3-4 points difference for everybody, and the difference of what the interval was when they came into this race to what they're currently looking like should the running order stay the same here for the final 40 laps, which, being Rockingham, not very likely. We've seen it already plague a couple of drivers that looked like they were going to be in the conversation, if not for a top 5, certainly maybe even for a victory this evening. Nathan Jump with that issue that has him multiple laps down. William Barbagelata with a connection problem that now has him out of the race. And we ended up seeing last week at Darlington, the track Too Tough to Tame did not play favorites, whether you were a playoff or a non-playoff driver. I don't want to put the commentator's curse on anybody, but so far here tonight, all of our playoff drivers have done a great job in execution. They're all currently running up inside of the top 8.
Yeah, and I don't want to, you mentioned the commentator's curse. I did it before, and I'm not trying to jinx it this time, I promise. Would love to see this go green and see where everybody cycles out, but it's a long ways to go yet. You have lap trucks that our leader, Jared Duda, is going to have to navigate here. We saw what happened to Barbagelata on that last run. Could a driver potentially trying to get all they can out of their truck, get into the wall, and then ultimately bring out that yellow? We'll see. That could change everything. We've seen that before in races like this here at Rockingham. So just a matter of if we'll get to the end. And like I said before, at the start of the race, we talked about lap traffic. That's going to be a huge part of it for this second, the second half of this run here, because you're going to have a lot of drivers out there on different agendas with tires and potentially some saving and some using up their stuff early.
It wasn't a battle for position we saw right there, but give a shout out to Gavin Fitzgerald, who's now made his way up into the top 10, holding down that 10th position. He's another driver that has run all 5 of the previous events here at Rockingham. 3 top 5 finishes in those 5 starts, and looking solid here tonight as well as Lewis Woodall back on pit road. Now remember, Woodall was on a slightly different strategy. Oh, we got trouble. The caution is out. Nathan Jump in trouble. I believe that is up into the entrance of turn 3. That might actually, no, I mean that's up in turn 1. And the yellow flag is going to wave. We have 12 drivers on the lead lap. And you saw just before that caution flew, there was a battle going on between Cy Jackson and Kyle Cooper. That was for what was going to eventually be the lucky dog. Cy Jackson was ahead at the time of yellow.
And I brought it up. A little delayed
I wasn't going to say anything.
Reaction, but I knew there was a chance of something happening, and we'll have to see what happened. But it's going to be put interesting spot. Looks like Gavin Fitzgerald to the inside, a jump here entering one. It's like maybe both just going for that middle lane.
Yep.
I think, yeah, both going for the middle and ultimately just coming together.
Turn 1 entry at Rockingham is so difficult. There is so much gray area. Different drivers have different approaches to how they want to enter into that corner in preparation for the exit. And you just saw right there on board with Gavin Fitzgerald, maybe looking for a little bit more of a dive in was Nathan Jump, more of a diamond in for Gavin Fitzgerald. And unfortunately, the right front fender and left rear fender making the contact. Jump goes around, caution comes out, and how much does this change up everything for the strategy now? Because what was looking like was going to be about a 50 to 60 lap endurance run, now you only have to save these tires for maybe about 30 laps.
Yeah, just gonna maybe change your driving style a little bit, just knowing that you don't have to save as much on this run for the first time tonight. We're gonna have a little bit of a shorter run at least scheduled, and the drivers will know that. So yeah, we'll see. Everybody pitted. Everybody had 2 sets still on pit road, so they still have one more set if they want to come down. I think that's going to be the interesting thing here. There's not much strategy. Everybody coming and grab tires right now just because they had run, about 15 to 20 laps average. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of who can capitalize on a little bit of a shorter run, and then if we do get a caution, then it's potentially a decision on when to get that last set of tires. You know, even if you go 5 to 10 laps here, your tires might wear enough where you want to go grab that last set. Maybe you want to save them and hope for something, a really late caution, and hopes that you can jump a bunch of drivers at the end. We'll have to see what happens. A bunch of drivers taking the wave around. I like that move. We talked about it earlier. Kyle Cooper, Brett Malone, James Shiflett, Hunter Brittle, a host of others trying to get back either one lap or one of their 2 laps. Maybe hoping for another quick caution here. Ultimately, all of them, they pitted in the window, so they all can make it. It's just a matter of can they go far enough here and not lose another lap or potentially get a caution to reset and grab their tires now. So
yeah, those 4 drivers that you mentioned right there now are back on the lead lap, courtesy of the wave around. Rod Fastnow also took the wave around. He is only 1 lap down, which is important because he's the only driver 1 lap down, would get the free pass should we get another caution. Here we go. Green flag back in the air, just a little north of 30 laps remaining here tonight in the Patti Engineering 170. And Jared Duda, he's been good in the short run, been good on the long run. He's now going to have maybe a new second place driver to worry about because Jackson Sims is putting the pressure on Matthew Weeks.
We talked about Jackson Sims having kind of a bad restart on that last one, doing a great job this time of capitalizing and maybe not getting second from Weeks, but jumping all the way up to 3rd here. Madalena's going to have an opportunity here in 4th. I think Ashton Lawson kind of being stuck on the outside. We're going to see Elliot Henderson looking. Nope, he's going to slide back behind Lawson, but yeah, a huge, huge opportunity for a couple of these drivers. You see Durr up there, up to 7th now, so restart here, opportunity to pass people, get your positions now.
Matthew Durr has been very impressive here since the playoffs began. Remember back to the regular season finale when he was able to last minute lock himself into the playoffs at the Auto Club Speedway. Had a great run at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Strong run last week at Darlington as well. Came in tonight, currently 7th in the standings, 22 points back. And we know he at least is going to leapfrog Spencer Owens in the standings, with Owens not taking the green flag here tonight. So another solid top 10 run here for the driver of the Xbox Chevrolet Silverado, as he now has his hands full with a former Rockingham winner in Shane Neiswanger.
And what this caution has done is really given a second life to a handful of drivers, including Matthew Weeks. He's doing a great job here of staying right on the bumper of Jared Duda, putting some pressure on him. I just don't know if maybe he feels he doesn't have much for him on the long run. Going to give everything he's got here on this short run and make him work for it. Doing a great job just staying right on his back bumper, especially down in 1 and 2.
little searching going on right there as he'll move up about a groove and a half higher through 1 and 2. Is that more just trying to find a weakness of the 53, or is that trying to get the clean air to the nose? Because you just run in the dirty air of the 53, it's going to hurt your corner exit.
The biggest thing, I think it just gives him momentum, and it's going to do it again in 3 and 4, enough to get to the inside. I think that's the play there. I think he's just trying to, get the momentum down these straightaways by using that top lane. Man, that's a tough spot to be in. Very tight off of 2. I think now you kind of almost have to. Okay, I tried. Let's try it again. Get back rolling. But then when you get an opportunity to maybe try that top lane to get that momentum again, we'll see if he tries it again down in 1 and 2.
Well, both of these individuals, in terms of Great Lake Truck Series statistics, they are youngins, if you will, in terms of their experience here at Rockingham. That doesn't mean that outside of Great Lakes Truck Series they don't have experience at this racetrack, but for Jared Duda, this is his first start in the series at this racetrack. For Matthew Weeks, it's only his second. His previous start, he rolled off the grid from 4th, brought it home on the podium in 3rd. He started on the pole here tonight, has run either 1st or 2nd the entire evening, looking for his 4th win on the season, looking for back-to-back victories here in the playoffs.
Definitely driving into the corner a little bit harder than Jared Duda right now, and that's short-term gain for sure, but it's just a matter of how long can he do it. We saw, remember back on that last run, Barbara Gelada did a great job of staying with Jared Duda for the early part of that run, and then what happened the second half of that run. I mean, I just saw Barbara Gelada there at 25th in the pit still, so it just went downhill fast after using up his tires. So we'll see if this affects Weeks. I give him credit because ultimately, like we said, he knows he's the points leader, especially running up front here tonight. He doesn't need this win, but man, he sure probably would want to grab those extra points if he could. So potentially risking a great finish here to try to go grab the win. Why not? We gotta love that as us fans being able to watch this race. He's gonna have another run here. Maybe look to the inside.
It's so interesting how a driver's mentality can flip a switch, and it can be in the matter of half a lap. We're obviously in the benefit of being up here looking at, how the field is spread out, where everybody is at, and you would think the priority for Matthew Weeks right now would be preserve the gap between him and the driver that's trying to take the points lead from him, Hunter Madalinas. But nope, he sees the back bumper of this 53. He sees some areas where he could capitalize to pick up this victory. Tied Daniel Nanny for most wins on the season, and he is going for it. He doesn't care what's in the rearview mirror right now. It's all out the windshield for driver 56.
I think he would want to try to get to the outside of Jared Duda. I just don't know if Jared's going to give him that opportunity. I think he knows that would be putting him in a bad spot. I think Weeks can potentially get the momentum, using that top lane, or even just doing a great job running the bottom right now when he gets the clean air that Duda's given him. Just not enough momentum though exiting the corner to be able to have the position exiting the corner. It always seems like he's doing a great job entering, but just can't seem to get off the corner, especially with Duda using that top lane. So we're going to see him drive in there deep again into 1, pull alongside, but just right here is where Duda's able to get back by him.
Yeah, that's the big problem, right? Because not only is Jared Duda running up on that outside line defensively to take away that opportunity from Matthew Weeks getting to his right rear, but he's happy up there. He's been ripping that top line all night long, so that's his comfort space. So it makes it even tougher on Matthew Weeks to try and find some other viable options. You see him maybe run a little bit higher groove there through 1 and 2. We saw him pretty committed to the bottom last couple of laps, maybe trying to see if he can find a little bit of extra momentum off the corner by exiting a little bit higher, maybe draw up to that left rear quarter panel on the corner exit, maybe pull him back on a straightaway, and maybe pull off a slide job into a corner. I don't know. It's a risk versus reward, certainly, because you want to get that one position, get the race lead, but you don't want to make a mistake that's going to cost you an opportunity of finishing up inside of the top 3 where you've been the entire evening.
I think there's going to be some opportunities here. I think that even though Duda has been very fast in the long run, he has been getting into the wall late in the run a a lot. And now you look ahead, there's 4 lap trucks. We saw all those wave arounds. They're all on older tires, so we're going to have some lappers here too. It's under 15 to go. It's this is going to be a couple moments here that we're going to be, we saw Duda struggle with some of the lappers early in this race, so we'll see as he already closing in on the 73 here.
Keep an eye on the top of your screen here. It's just coming to frame right there. Ashton Lawson, that last time by, he just ran a 25.190, 2 to 3 tenths faster than the drivers up ahead of him. If he can get some good spots here with lap traffic, we could see the 26 up here in the conversation as well. Started on the outside of the front row, led the opening stages of this race. We may not have heard the last of another playoff driver in Lawson.
Yeah, and I think, Sims, Lawson. Oh, and there's a yellow. Just like that. It's like
Lewis Woodall.
Lewis Woodall.
Looks like that's over there on the top groove through the center of 3 and 4. Going to bring out the third caution of the evening. Kyle Cooper had just gone a lap down, so he's going to be the recipient of the free pass here under this yellow. And we'd gone about 20 laps on these tires. Little assistance there from Josh Robin. Little kiss to the outside wall with the right rear. No further contact with anybody else. But it does bring out the yellow at quite an interesting time here. As here's a look again. I want to watch the back end of this Pepsi machine because it looked like he might have been loose already going into the corner. Yeah, you see the back end stepping out a little bit. You talk about it being a momentum track. When your back end is stepping out like that, it scrubs off speed, and the driver behind you, they do the best they can to lift out of the throttle, but sometimes you just can't lift out enough.
It's a tough spot. So you see everybody coming down. I figure everybody was going to pit here. I think everyone has, at least, these front runners, everyone has just one more set. It's going to be under 10 laps to go when we get back green, so I think this is the right call. A handful of these drivers that took that wave around on that last caution, they're going to get their opportunity to get their second to last set on. They'll have another set on pit road, but it really ain't going to do much with 10 laps to go. Going to need maybe another caution, and ultimately, just not enough laps to really make a difference. So it's just going to be a shootout here for the win. I think this probably hurts Jared Duda a little bit. He's done a great job on pit road. He's going to maintain the lead here. Week's going to be second. I just think that, where the 53, his strength has been on the long run tonight in the second half of the run. Can he hold off? He did a great job of keeping Weeks at bay there during those 10 laps. But, man, it's it's going to be, all gloves off. They're all going to go for it here. And now we saw Sims with a great restart. We talked, on that last run, Lawson is an aggressive driver. I think that, you're going to have a handful of drivers with an opportunity here to try to do something to steal this from Jared Duda.
Got a little nervous there for a few of those race leaders. Some late dives onto pit road, and we saw some commitment line violations last week at Darlington. Obviously, you can't put a physical cone out here on the racetrack, but there is an orange box for the commitment line here at Rockingham, and I saw a number of drivers, including the top 3, they came down and kind of straddled that orange box. I don't know if it's you have to have your left sides at least to the left side of that box for it to be legal, but I was kind of a little concerned for some of those guys there going right over that orange box. Don't want to see a lot of these guys that have been duking it out for the race lead have to go to the back here with coming out a single-digit laps remaining here at Rockingham. It's been an endurance race here tonight for these drivers. It only seems now right that they need to flip the script and turn it into a shootout. Who's got the best short-run truck? 9 laps in regulation. Jared Duda, Matthew Weeks continue to battle it out here as Duda, incredible launch. He's going to leave them stacked up second place on back.
See who is able to grab second here. I think Weeks up on that top side is going to have the momentum. Sims did a great job staying there. He's going to stay to the inside. Nope, going to fall in line. Give chance to Ashton Lawson now looking for third on the inside.
Robin Durr knocking the wall down back there off of turn 2. Everybody scatters but gets through unscathed. We stay green. 8 laps to go here as Weeks gets himself cleared. Sims currently clear for 3rd, with Lawson looking low on Madalinas for the 4th position. Madalinas, big slide. He's going to hit the wall off of turn 2. Here comes Henderson, his teammate, to the outside line.
Just a stack up of everybody being so close, trying to gain those positions. We've seen many of these drivers know that this has been the opportunity to gain those positions. Neiswager pushing Henderson by Madalinas right now. Everybody using up what they got. No saving right now, as Weeks is closed in on Duda again. Going to be on the back bumper here for these last 7 laps.
Henderson's not able to clear Madalinas as of yet. That battle for 5th continues on. Here's Matthew Weeks. He's tried the bottom numerous times. Duda has not given him the top. Drives it deep. Can't get to that outside line. They're almost got the wall through the center of 1 and 2 did Matthew Weeks. And if these two continue battling, it's going to bring Jackson Sims, Ashton Lawson right up here into the conversation. So if you're Weeks, you cannot toil too long with this 53. If you're going to get around him, you're going to have to do it quick.
I imagine if you're Jackson Sims, Ashton Lawson, you're like, come on, Matthew Weeks, get up there, get something going here, because I think if they bobble at all, you're going to see Sims and Lawson right there. So we'll see. It seemed like that last run, Weeks, it took him a couple laps to kind of get going, but also, you know, that last run, we didn't know how long we were going to go, so maybe Duda was holding back a little bit and able to use this stuff. He's done a great job now, just keeping a little bit of a gap here, doing a fantastic job of keeping Weeks away from his back bumper.
Last time we had a driver go back-to-back here this season, it was Daniel Nanny when he went on a 4-race winning streak during the month of June. The driver that broke that streak, it was Jared Duda at the Paperclip Short Track at Martinsville. Matthew Weeks looking to be the 2nd driver to go back-to-back here this season, as he's lost some ground to the 53, about 2.5 car lengths, and using up a bunch of that rear grip as he slides off of 2.
Just trying everything right now. I think it's interesting how everybody's kind of navigated to the top lane. I think they know that's where the momentum is. I think a lot of people have learned that this last run, and it's really just kind of been a great spot for defense and keep the momentum up. Weeks doing a great job there. That time kind of entered even higher and closed up a little bit more. Just have about the same amount of momentum, but able to roll the center through 1 and 2. We'll see if he can do it again on the final lap.
He's got himself within striking distance. He'll have a couple of shots at Jared Duda as the white flag is out. 1 lap to go. What can Matthew Weeks do? He's within half a truck length. Does he send it here into 3 and 4? Does he have the grip to do so?
And inside, just don't know if he's close enough. Duda's getting the wall. They're going to bump.
Contact! Here they come. Weeks cannot stay to the inside, and Jared Duda will pick up his 2nd victory on the season. He'll take the Patti Engineering 170 at the Rock.
Just ultimately trying to use that top lane. We saw Jared Duda have multiple times tonight where he was getting so close to the wall and then kind of bump, to use it kind of to straighten his truck out. But there, I think he was just trying to drive in as far as he can to get away from Matthew Weeks. And Weeks got there, even though Jared was able to get the wall a little bit and keep the momentum up. I thought there was a chance there they were going to be side by side, but Weeks just couldn't really. Almost like he kind of got stuck to him there for a second, and then lost his momentum as well. So, great job by Jared Duda ultimately on the long run and the short run, being able to capitalize on both and hold the lead.
When Jared Duda picked up his first victory at Martinsville, he led all but 3 laps of that race. After he got the race lead here tonight at Rockingham, nobody seemed to be able to get around him. They could get beside him, they just couldn't seem to be able to put him in the rearview mirror. He will join the multi-win club here in Season 11, picking up the victory here tonight at Rockingham. Matthew Weeks came in the points leader. He'll be one spot shy of his fourth victory on the season, but it'll be a big points night for him. And the consistency in the postseason continues for Jackson Sims as he will bring it home on the podium in the third position. And then it's all playoff drivers behind there for the remainder of the top 8. Lawson, Henderson, Neiswanger, Madalinas, and Durr. Great performances out of the playoff drivers here tonight at a very difficult racetrack.
Yeah, for sure. Ultimately, not a huge swing on points. A great performance by everybody. Just hats off to all of them for all having a great run and ultimately probably looking up and being like, man, there's playoff drivers everywhere here. I'm not really gaining much ground whether you're one of those drivers trying to extend the lead or shrink it. So great night all around for all these drivers, not just the playoff drivers, but our race winner who isn't a playoff driver, Jared Duda. So
if we can go down to victory lane and dial him up. Jared, it's the guys up here in the split second broadcasting booth. Easy for me to say. You got a copy.
Yeah, I got you guys. You guys got.
Man, I'll tell you what, as soon as you were able to get this number 53 out in clean air, seemed like both short run and long run, this truck was strong. You had that final restart. You knew the 56 was going to try something there. He got to your inside. You get the wall. You get enough momentum off the corner there. Were you expecting it to be that close there on that final lap?
No, at the end there, I started to get a little nervous and messed up a couple of times and bounced it off the wall in 3 and 4. I thought for sure I lost it, but he followed me right up on my bumper, and I was able to keep the lead. So it was a good race for Weeks, and the battle at the end there was always fun. I wish it didn't come down to GWC like that, but overall, really good race.
We talk about this worn out track surface, leads for multi-groove racing. A lot of drivers have options on how they want to approach this racetrack. We saw you pretty committed to that top line there, especially through the middle to latter portions of a run. What was the comfort level that drew you up there?
Yeah, it just felt like it was easy to keep a consistent run off the corner. Definitely, I migrated up there towards the middle of the run. I tried to stay at the bottom as long as I could, but as soon as I started losing time, I had to jump up top. But yeah, it just felt like it was easier to kind of keep the speed, momentum rolling on old tires. The only downside is you got to play against that wall. Touched it a couple times, and I think it probably hurt me more than it helped me. But other than that, we were able to keep most defenders on it and bring it home.
Obviously, we talk about this portion of the season, we look at the playoff drivers and everything, but we certainly cannot take anything away from the non-playoff drivers wanting to go to victory lane just as much. Tonight puts you in the multi-win club here in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. How cool is it for you to be able to not only burn it down once, but twice here this season, and maybe have some more shots here for the close of season 11?
Yeah, no, I've definitely, the beginning of the season was just terrible luck. I could not finish. I think you guys even mentioned it before Phoenix, my best finish was like 16th. So it feels good to put a couple of good finishes back to back here. But overall, I mean, being in the 2-win club, you've heard me say it a couple times here, the talent in this league, the skill is pretty high level. So it feels really good to be able to bring home multiple wins, because I know there's definitely 10, 12 cars a week, if not more, that could put it in victory lane every week. So it feels good to be there. Everything fell our way, and Manji Motorsports, due to racing, put together a bad, fast F-150 here. So just can't thank the guys enough, and I was just lucky enough to be the guy to drive it.
Well, what a track to do it at. A lot of history surrounds this facility. Congratulations on taking the checker flag here tonight at Rockingham. Jared, before we let you go and continue your celebration there in Victory Lane, we're going to open up the floor to you for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yep, thanks to the guys at GLR. They put on a great series, like I said, every week. I love coming out here, racing with these guys. Good talent, good admins, good rule set, a bunch of clean racing, good racing. So I think we had 2 or 3 yells tonight, especially at a track like this. That's not always easy to do. So shout out to the field and the admins as well. Shout out to you guys at Split Second Broadcasting. You guys do a great job. Excited to watch this one back. And then shout out to my teammates at Manji Motorsports. They always supporting me, helping me put together a fast truck, fix the line, and during the race as well. And then I just want to thank a few more. Shout out to my dad. He's crew chiefing, putting together fast trucks as well. My mom, my girlfriend. Shout out to everyone for watching as well. Keep the broadcast, keep the viewers coming in. Yeah, shout out to Ford Performance putting together a fast F-150.
Well, a tremendous run here tonight as Jared Duda is able to conquer the rock here at the North Carolina Speedway. Congratulations on the victory, joining the multi-win club. Best of luck here the remainder of the season. We'll let you get back to your celebrating here tonight with your victory at Rockingham.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
And I believe Ross has got our second place finisher on standby.
Matthew, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, second place tonight. We saw you have an opportunity to try to get Jared at the end there. What did you need those last handful of laps? We saw in that second to last run you had some opportunities trying to get to his inside. Just ran out of time maybe, and maybe ran out of a couple more tries at it. What else could you have done to maybe try to have gotten around that 53?
I don't know. It's just so hard to pass on the bottom here. So the only thing you can do is try to get to his outside, and there's not a lot of room between him and the wall. And I tried it and wanted to, and almost got the wall, and then I had a good shot on the last lap, like I said, 3 and 4, and he tagged the wall a little bit, and I was just at the perfect angle, just close enough to when he hit the wall, I hit him. I felt like if I was down a little bit further and he scraped the wall, we would have had a drag race to the line, but I don't know if I could add anything different. Like, he was the car to beat tonight. No matter what I did, I tried everything different. First run, I went hard. Not all the way hard, but like 75%, 80% harder, harder than I usually do in the first part of the run. And he took off, and I'm like, okay. And then I let someone go, and I forget who it was. And I just rode for a little bit to get my tires back underneath me. And then I got to him again, and I started catching him, and then I just cooked the rear again. So I don't know if I could have done anything, even on the short run. I tried everything.
We saw, basically the first two runs, pretty much we ran the entire run. The first run all the way to the fuel window before the caution came out, and then the second run you ran all the way to green flag pit stops with the pack. So what, when you start running one of those long runs, you don't know how long it's going to be. What's your decision-making process as far as how you're going to save your tires? Are you making that on the fly, or do you kind of know what to expect, or maybe even learn as you run each run throughout the race?
I usually, no matter what, the first half of the race, I take it easy just to learn, and I try to get in traffic too. Like tonight, where I started on pole, I know a lot of guys go hard early in the run, so sometimes I fall back to probably like fifth or sixth. Tonight it was third, but I just like to stay right there and try to learn real quick, see what the air feels like, how the car handles in traffic, and then and then at that point I'm still lifting earlier than everybody, and then I just take my time, and then about halfway after the first half of the race, it's usually game time, and I have this mindset at play tracks too. It's like if we go green, I'm just going to chill and wait, and then once we have the green flag pit stop, I'll go. I'll just wait till after the green flag stop, and that usually plays pretty well. And then we get cautions too, so it was going to be an interesting night if we didn't have that caution where I went one lap. I felt like that one extra lap could have played a difference right there, maybe, because I was just a little off. So that's why I wanted to stretch it there. But it depends on the track too. Like tonight, I knew there would be some cautions. That's why I started off harder in the run earlier than I normally do. And then say like we go to Darlington, guys, like we did last week, guys tend to single out. So I really back off there. And bigger tracks, I back off. Shorter tracks, I go hard because we're going to have the cautions.
I want to give you some credit for ultimately battling up front tonight with Duda, who has nothing to lose, not competing in the playoffs currently. You are, so I give you credit for going up there and trying to go grab this win. You could have easily just rode in second and taken your points. Either way, you're able to still finish second, go from 2 points to 9 points unofficially. You just kind of mentioned strategy for Super Speedway. We go to Talladega next week. How are you feeling with a 9-point cushion? Not much wiggle room, but ultimately still with the lead and a little bit extra points leaving Rockingham.
Well, all of us know it's a wild card, so it's good to have a little gap going to Dega, but you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we could all get caught in a big wreck on lap 5, and then all of us playoff guys are racing with damaged trucks. I mean, so you never know. I know. I always, like I touched on, I always like to wait on a green flag stop before I make any moves at a plate track. It's just I like to see who's the good pushers, who can handle a push, who can't, what they're doing in the traffic, and what kind of moves they're making. It's all when you get to those type of tracks, it's just a big chess match, really. I mean, you're trying to figure out what everyone's going to do and how they're going to do it, and how they race that type of track, because everyone has different mindsets going in there. So I just want to finish. I just need to finish good. We need to make it to the end. I say good top 10, maybe. Even if we lose a couple points, that's fine. I looked at the schedule now, and after Dega, like that stretch of tracks, it looks pretty good for me. So we just got to get through Dega.
Well, we'll let you go tonight, but before we do, we'll give you an opportunity to thank anyone that you'd like as we wrap up the chat here.
Shout out to my buddy Justin Vandermeer. You know, he paints all my schemes. He's on vacation right now, so hit him up when he gets back at JV Designs on Twitter. He'll paint you something nice. My other buddy John Cutlip, he paints schemes too. Hit him up on Twitter at JD Designs. They make amazing paint schemes. They do a lot of. I know John does a lot of Coke guy schemes, and Justin does a lot of other league stuff that we race in and stuff. And they do a great job. You guys in the booth, man. I even spent this weekend where I had nothing to do watching some old races. You guys do a hell of a job, man. And I even went back and watched this race from last season to try to learn something. So I like that you keep them on YouTube and stuff, so I can go back and watch. And you guys do a good job. Everyone that runs the league, I always give a huge shout out. But it's always nice to find a good league that can run long green flag runs and have some good racing in it. So I appreciate all those guys. We had good battles up there, Ashton and Jared at the end. I tried so hard. I was going to try to give him a bump, but we were too close to the wall, and I didn't want to hit him in the wall. And then I ended up hitting him anyway. But I'm glad he got the win. He was the truck to beat. So shout out to him. And Dark Horse Motorsports, man, still representing, running this. I'm hoping to bring the championship home for the team. You know, they brought me in this season, so we're running strong now. So shout out to those guys for letting me race for them.
Well, congrats on the extending the point lead and coming home second tonight. We'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right, man. Thank you. Yeah, have a good night.
And let's see if we can dial up the driver that brings it home third place here tonight, Jackson Sims. Jackson's the guy who's up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Man, I'll tell you what, we talk about this type of playoff system, how much emphasis there is on consistency, and I know we talked to you last week after a podium finish at Darlington. You have been so consistent, my friend. Back-to-back third-place finishes here, following up the top 5 run you had at Homestead. The speed we're seeing out of this 6 each and every week now, we keep now talking about it. It seems like it's just a matter of time before we see this 6 truck in victory lane. You had yourself a front row seat of that battle for the race lead. Did you have a contingency plan in place if those two got together, lost some momentum to maybe be able to get by the both of them?
Yeah, I almost thought it was about to happen, and 3 and 4, they both kind of got up high into the wall. So I was kind of hoping they were just to give me a chance to win. But yeah, it's just being consistent. That's all I'm trying to do. Just not taking any unnecessary risk. Not beating myself. And when you do that, you can end up with good finishes.
We end up seeing, as we mentioned, you run well last week at Darlington, a worn-out track surface, has a lot of short track tendencies in its style of racing. Fast forward to tonight, another historic racetrack, very abrasive on the tires, short track racing style. How much from Darlington were you able to take away and apply here to tonight at Rockingham?
Yeah, surprisingly, not much. Darlington is kind of more raced like a mile and a half, and this one kind of more like a short track, even though Darlington's not much longer. So not much. I'm usually not very good here. So I was kind of just able to sit back and learn the first half of the race from the guys in front of me. That really helped me a lot to get better by the end.
Talking about the end, we end up seeing very few cautions here tonight, but the timing of them were interesting, most of them bookending some rather lengthy green flag runs, anywhere from 40 to 50 laps. That last caution comes out, and you guys have to gear up for about a 10-lap shootout. How much did you know about your truck on the short run of how much you were going to be able to push it in the opening stages of this race for comparison?
Yeah, I thought it was definitely going to be interesting. At the short run, not having to save tire. I think that's kind of why you saw everybody start ripping the top, just because you didn't have to worry about tire wear. So I kind of had to learn how to run the top on fresh tires. I hadn't done that all night, so it took me a lap or two to get used to that. But after that, I think I could maintain with the two in front of me on that last run, but I don't think I had a shot to go and get them.
Ross brought up a point that the 3 racetracks we've been at to so far here in the postseason, Homestead, Darlington, Rockingham, they are drivers' racetracks. We go next week to a wild card track, our second super speedway on the season, the high banks of Talladega. What's the confidence level with the consistency you've been able to find here that you can come away with a solid run next week, or you going into that race with maybe a little bit of an unknowing, a little bit of trepidation with it being a super speedway?
Yeah, I'm really, really not looking forward to that, just because it's so much out of your hands. But sometimes it could be a good thing if you're one of the ones that get lucky. The guys that run up front can sometimes get in wrecks a lot. So it really is a wild card, like you said. So I really don't know what to expect other than it's gonna go out there and try our best.
Well, Jackson, congratulations on yet another solid performance here in the playoffs. Back-to-back podiums at 2 of the most historic racetracks on the circuit. You bring it home 3rd place here tonight at Rockingham. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast again. My teammates all there tonight: Rod, Cy, Brenton, Rod, and everybody watching at home. Because my grandparents, shout out to them. Yep.
Jackson Sims, 3rd place here tonight at the Rockingham Speedway. He will look to keep this consistency going here as we head to Talladega next week. Best of luck there. Congratulations on a solid performance here tonight at Rockingham.
Thank you.
So as we have Rockingham in the books, Talladega looming on the horizon. Ross, it's kind of interesting when we talk with a couple of those playoff drivers. There's a skill, there's an art to super speedway racing, but it'll be interesting to see here where these playoff drivers stand in terms of how much percentage of their skill they're going to be relying on and how much percentage of getting lucky there's going to be. We didn't see much in terms of shifting points positions here tonight. Might be an entirely different story at Talladega next week.
Well, yeah, and I kind of was just looking back, kind of reminding myself of what went down at Daytona at the start of the season. If you recall, we had the photo finish of Spencer Owens and Elliott Henderson, who really kind of controlled that entire race. Elliott and Spencer both led, almost 75% of that race by just kind of controlling the lines and working together. So you probably could see, potential for some of these drivers that are playoff drivers working with other playoff drivers, then also the mix of teammates that are not in the playoff field trying to help out. Could be very interesting to see what happens. Of course, Talladega is a lot wider track, so more opportunity for runs. I think that'll play a game. I also think that there's a tendency there to have a more likely chance of green flag pit stops and maybe some strategy that maybe some of these drivers will feel a little bit safer on. So I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait for next week. I think it'll be very exciting to see what happens and how it potentially mixes up our playoff field and gives them a huge test that's been very different than the last few weeks as far as testing these drivers in order to see who is going to take home this championship.
Yeah, we even heard Matthew Weeks maybe have a bit of a plan in case we ended up getting some green flag pit stops next week. Here's a look at the way they crossed the start-finish line here tonight in the Patti Engineering 170. Jared Duda joins the multi-win club, picking up his 2nd win on the season. 7 playoff drivers took the green flag here tonight, and they make up spots 2 through 8. Matthew Weeks, the highest of them, in 2nd. Jackson Sims on the podium in 3rd. Ashton Lawson, who was started from the outside of the front row, led the opening laps of this race, brings it home 4th, with Elliott Henderson solidly in the top 5. Shane Nicewanger gets 6th, Hunter Madalinas in 7th, and Matt Durr brings it home in the 8th position. Gavin Fitzgerald and Nicholas Caressel, they will cap off the remainder of the top 10.
Yeah, looking 11th through 20th. A lot of these drivers had some issues, either just potentially trying to pit a little bit early on the run or use up their tires or had problems. Brent Kincott, Cy Jackson. Brett Malone, shout out Brett Malone. I totally forgot his name early in the race. I don't know why I blanked on his truck, the 29 truck. But shout out to him for bringing home in 13th. James Shiflett, Robin Durr in 15th. Hunter Brittle, we saw him in a couple incidents, but still able to finish on the lead lap. Kyle Cooper, Rod Faz now was last car on the lead lap in 18th. Aiden DuPont, I think he was involved in a couple incidents, still just -1 lap down. I feel like he was right on the edge of getting that free pass pretty much the whole second half of that race. Never was able to get it. And then Lewis Woodall, we saw his problems, but ultimately a top 20, able to salvage something, finishing in 20th.
A couple more drivers that got bit with the early caution after making a green flag pit stop and really found themselves fighting from behind the rest of the race. Josh Robin, multiple laps down in 21st, Travis Hamby 22nd, Eric Kempf 23rd, and then two drivers found issues during the course of this race after they were looking like solid top 5 contenders. Nathan Jump going to finish in 24th position, and William Barbagelata in the 25th spot. A couple of drivers that could very well have been in the conversation for the victory had circumstances played out differently. We mentioned about the fact that you could have thrown a blanket over your playoff drivers. Because of that, not a whole lot changes in terms of the points, maybe a little bit more space between the positions here in terms of points gained or lost, but the order looks pretty similar. Like I said, though, Ross, could be an entirely different look of the playoff standings when we conclude at Talladega next week. So for a couple of drivers coming in, being able to kind of hold the status quo, maybe the goal met for them in preparation for the wild card race.
Yeah, and I think, we were talking teammates. You look at some of those teammates where they're at. Spectrum Racing got a couple of them up in the top 5. Dark Horse Motorsports with a handful of them. With Weeks, he was talking about where, his team, them bringing him in this year with Niswanger and Durr. Should be interesting to see if team racing is the advantage for some of these drivers competing in the playoffs.
A few of the playoff drivers we mentioned did not take the green tonight, so we'll see what Jared Darling, Christian Peterson can do next week. Spencer Owens was not in the field tonight, and he's the only driver here in Season 11 that formally has a victory at a super speedway, the season opener at Daytona. We'll see how it all plays out next week at the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway. Join us next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Congratulations to Jared Duda. He picks up his second victory on the season, taking tonight's Patti Engineering 170 at The Rock. Thank you for joining us for our coverage here tonight. We'll see you guys next week as the playoffs continue for Season 11 of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. For Ross Brockman, our producer, Jeff Johnson, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of Split Second Broadcasting.